Bang! With a loud noise, Ethan, with a cold face, overturned the table with one sweep. I was so frightened that I took 2 steps back and looked at him in panic. What are you celebrating? Ethan stared at me coldly. Are you celebrating that my Olivia is dying? My Olivia? I stared blankly at him. When he looked at me, it seemed that boundless anger filled his eyes, but when he mentioned my Olivia, his tone even softened a bit. At that instant, my heart skipped a beat, as if needles were pricking me. Occasionally it hurt, not a sharp pain, but it made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Before I could open my mouth, he continued, Sophia, why are you so vicious? Do you have a heart? Even if it were a stranger, you shouldn't be so gloating. You make me so disgusted. His eyes were full of disgust. The ankle scratched by the glass shard sent a stinging sensation at this moment, which sobered me up a little. I lowered my head slightly and suddenly felt somewhat ironic. Ethan, I'm pregnant, I said. I didn't know about Olivia's situation. Suddenly, Ethan froze on the spot. He looked at the mess on the ground and saw the pregnancy test report almost submerged by the food and cake. There was no surprise in his eyes. Only panic, astonishment, and confusion. My heart sank a little too. Sorry, Sophia, Ethan said guiltily, Olivia is seriously ill. You've always disliked her. I thought you were celebrating that she was about to. I lowered my eyes and smiled wryly. So he knew that I didn't like her. How could I like Olivia with all the grievances that she and her family had imposed on me over the years? But Ethan, even though he clearly knew my dislike, still cared about Olivia deeply and even accused me indiscriminately because of her. While feeling sad, I couldn't help but feel a bit chilled. Sorry, Ethan suddenly hugged me and apologized to me. I was too hasty and said the wrong things. Sophia, don't be angry, okay? I wanted to say yes, but when the words came to my lips, I couldn't get them out. So I changed the topic and asked, is she very serious? There was pity and reluctance in Ethan's tone. It's terminal gastric cancer. An incurable disease. No wonder he was so angry. I said, that's such a pity. Just as I finished speaking, Ethan's cell phone rang. As soon as he answered it, I heard Olivia's crying voice. Brother Ethan, I'm in so much pain. If I jump off the building, will I stop hurting? Olivia. Don't do anything stupid. Ethan's hands were trembling. His face was full of heartache and nervousness. I'll come over right now. I watched his flustered figure as he left. It turned out that even he, who had always been calm and composed, could lose control sometimes. I didn't follow him and sat in the living room all night. In the morning, when Ethan came back and saw me, he was a bit surprised. Didn't you sleep? I said, I just woke up. How is she? Her mood has stabilized. Ethan let out a sigh of relief. Then he touched my head again. Sophia, last night things happened so suddenly. You're so sensible. You won't blame me, right? Being considerate and sensible had always been my labels, but these labels made me feel a bit suffocated. I obediently shook my head. Only then did Ethan show a few smiles. He took the initiative to clean up the mess from last night. Unprecedentedly, he also went into the kitchen and made breakfast for me. Ethan had always been good at cooking, but he didn't usually go into the kitchen easily. Seeing his unusual behavior, the uneasiness in my heart grew stronger. Sure enough, before I finished breakfast, Ethan suddenly said, Sophia, can we postpone our wedding for a month? I was stunned for a moment and asked him, why? There are some problems with the venue. And you're pregnant. The size of the wedding dress still needs to be modified by the designer. We can change the venue. At that time, it'll only be 2 months pregnant and won't show. Silly girl. Ethan smiled and ruffled my hair. But I want to give you the best and make you my most beautiful bride. His lips kissed the corner of my eyebrow, warm, seeming to carry a hint of ingratiation. I looked into his eyes and nodded. Okay. In the afternoon, Ethan and I went to the hospital together. Olivia was lying on the bed, looking listless. When she saw Ethan, a smile flashed across her face. But when she saw me, the corners of her mouth drooped. Brother Ethan, sister, you're here. The little girl spoke slowly, coughing several times after saying a sentence. I said, "Take care of yourself and follow the doctor's advice." "Thank you, sister." Olivia nodded. We sat for a while. Perhaps because of my presence, the two of them didn't talk much. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Just as I was about to leave, Olivia clamored to eat the cake from in front of the school gate. Ethan immediately got up, his tone slightly indulgent. "I'll go buy it for you right now." After saying that, without even asking for my opinion, he left. After Ethan left, I also felt a bit restless. At this time, Olivia suddenly said, "Sister, thank you." I looked at her blankly. "Thank me for what?" "Brother Ethan said that he would fulfill my dream from my youth." Olivia's face flushed slightly and she said shyly, "Next month, the two of us will hold a wedding. Thank you for your kindness in letting it happen." My heart skipped a beat. I shouldn't have believed her. But this morning when Ethan told me the news of postponing the wedding, it made me think too much. So, was he doing this just to give my wedding to Olivia? I was shocked and angry, but more than that, there was a sense of sadness spreading from the bottom of my heart. How could he do this? Sadly, I looked at Olivia. A hint of smugness flashed in her eyes, yet she thought she had hidden it well. I walked out of the hospital in a daze. "Sister, we are truly sisters. Even the wedding dress we like is the same. Brother Ethan said that there's not enough time and asked me to wear your wedding dress to get married. Sister won't mind, right?" Olivia's voice lingered in my mind. When I got home, I washed my face with cold water and finally sobered up a little. I sat in the living room and waited for a long time before Ethan came back. He looked at me somewhat displeased. "Why did you come back by yourself without telling me?" "Olivia's mood has been unstable recently. Uncle and Aunt aren't by her side. How could you leave her there alone?" His words were full of concern for her. And for me, there was only blame left. I said softly, "I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable in my stomach." Suddenly, guilt flashed in Ethan's eyes. "Sorry. You have a baby in your belly. It was thoughtless of me. Do you still want this child?" I asked him. Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" "Olivia said that you two will hold a wedding next month." I looked at Ethan, and I saw the panic in his eyes. But in just a second, he regained his composure. "Olivia's dying wish is to wear a wedding dress and marry me. Her mood was unstable last night. I could only calm her down like this." Ethan explained, "How could I marry her? Don't think too much. The person I love is you." "Then why was the wedding postponed?" I looked at him and asked. "I've already said it's because of the venue problem." Ethan's tone was a bit impatient. "Sophia, you weren't like this before. Why don't you trust me?" After saying that, he lifted his leg and walked upstairs. I looked at his back and just felt a bit tired. I followed him closely and entered the room. He ignored me and turned to go into the bathroom. When I was about to rest, his cell phone rang. It was his assistant. I answered it, told him to call back later, and then hung up the phone. Unexpectedly, I saw the messages in Ethan's WeChat group. "Ethan, I've asked around. I don't have any experts in gastric cancer here. Alas, we all know that you still like her. We thought you two would get back together. Who would have thought? However, it's quite affectionate of you to be with her older sister for her sake." I froze on the spot. Then what am I? Ethan's WeChat nickname is, "Your hair is messy." This sentence comes from Haruki Murakami's short essay, "If I Love You." Suddenly, I remembered what it meant, which is unrequited love. It turned out that I had always been the closest substitute in his feelings, the one who couldn't get his love. A dense pain instantly invaded my heart and brain, making my limbs uncontrollably stiff. Until my stomach churned and I couldn't help but vomit. After vomiting out the little that was left in my stomach, I felt a bit more comfortable. I touched my face and it was already icy cold. I turned off the screen, lay on the bed, and closed my eyes to rest. Suddenly, my thoughts drifted back to the senior year of high school. Ethan was a popular figure in school. He came from a good family, had good grades, and was good looking. He was the monitor of our class and was very likable. I wasn't good at math. The senior year was a crucial period for the college entrance examination sprint. I would always come to the classroom early to study. One time, he caught me. He smiled and said to me, "You've solved this problem wrong." After saying that, he sat beside me and taught me how to solve the problem step by step. The boy's voice was clear and crisp. When he smiled, there were two shallow dimples. The sunlight shone through the screen window and fell on his face, as if coating him with a layer of golden light, which dazzled me and made me lose my heart. I had been thinking about him for many years. Later, I followed him to the same university and witnessed the whole process of his relationship with Olivia, from falling in love to breaking up. I silently hid in the corner, hoping that he would notice me someday. Finally, he noticed me. That day, he stood under the street lamp and confessed to me, "Sophia, I like you. Let's be together." But there was no joy on his face, only calmness and composure. Blinded by joy, I pretended not to see it. After Ethan came out, he hugged me from behind and said gently, "Be good. Don't think too much. I want to marry you." I pretended to be asleep and didn't answer. Later, he was called away by Olivia on the phone. And I suffered from insomnia all night. On Monday, I went back to school to work. I taught the main courses in a middle school, and the workload was heavy. After a week, I was so tired that I could hardly breathe. As soon as I got home, I sensed that the atmosphere was a bit off. When I looked up, I saw several people sitting in the living room. My parents greeted me hypocritically, and Olivia smiled sweetly at me. Ethan pulled me over. "Sophia, anyway, Olivia is your biological sister. She doesn't have much time left and just wants to live with Ethan and spend the last days together." My mother said, "She won't affect your relationship with Ethan. Could you please help her? Your father and I are begging you." They knelt down in front of me. Upstairs, Ethan said to me, "Sophia, if you don't want to, I'll ask her to move out right away." "Okay," I said. Perhaps Ethan didn't expect my answer to be this, as he was stunned for several seconds. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Actually, I knew what answer he had hoped for. But this time, I didn't want to be that obedient Sophia who satisfied everyone. Ethan was silent for 2 seconds and then said, "Sophia, she's your biological sister." I knew that Olivia and I were biological sisters. When I was 1 year old, my parents got divorced. Neither of them wanted me, so my grandma took me back to the countryside to raise me. After the divorce, my mother found out that she was pregnant, so they got remarried. However, nobody knew the news of their remarriage. And naturally, I was forgotten by them. I asked him, "So what?" Ethan didn't answer, but I knew that he was unhappy. When Olivia left my house, there were tears in her eyes and her voice was choked. "It's okay. I know sister's concerns. It's me, Olivia, who overstepped the boundary. Brother Ethan, sister, I'm sorry. I've caused you two trouble." She cried and ran out, and everyone chased after her with heartache. I stood at the door, like a stray dog that had been forgotten. Soon, Ethan came back. He didn't say anything. After dinner, we each went about our own business. On Monday after work, I suddenly received a call from my grandma. She asked me if I had been bullied. "No," I said with a smile. Grandma asked me, "Dear granddaughter, why do you sound so weak?" "It's nothing. I'm just a bit tired from work recently." "If something's wrong, don't keep it to yourself. Tell Ethan. He'll be the closest person to you in the future." I got it. You child, don't always sacrifice yourself to accommodate others. Listening to Grandma's voice, my nose felt a bit sour. I hummed in response and chatted with her for a while before hanging up the phone. Then I called my neighbor. Only then did I learn that my parents had gone back to beg my grandma to persuade me. My grandma drove them out, but she accidentally sprained her ankle. Hearing this, I was so shocked that I wanted to go back immediately. The neighbor said, "Don't come back. Your grandma was just afraid that you'd worry." "Don't worry. Her ankle is okay. I'm keeping an eye on it. But those parents of yours, don't let them come to harass the old lady again." I knew that if I didn't agree, they would continue to harass my grandma. She was old and couldn't bear it. Under the pressure, I finally agreed to let Olivia move in. When Ethan heard this, he restrained the joy on his face and hugged me, saying, "Sophia, I knew you were still my kindest and most magnanimous Sophia." I closed my eyes and forced a smile. His happiness had always been related to Olivia. Olivia moved in overnight. Perhaps out of consideration for my feelings, Ethan didn't go downstairs to help. He held my hand and promised, "I only regard her as a sister now and just want to see her off properly." I nodded and said, "Okay." In the middle of the night, there was a clattering noise downstairs. It was accompanied by Olivia's exclamation. Ethan and I were awakened from our sleep. "I'll go downstairs to check." "You rest first." Ethan turned on the light and immediately got up. I said, "Let's go down together." When we walked downstairs, we saw Olivia lying on the kitchen floor, her face pale. When she saw us coming down, she pitifully cried out in pain and tears streamed down her face. She looked so pitiful. Ethan and I helped her up. Ethan said angrily, "What were you doing in the middle of the night? Don't you know you're in poor health? Why are you being so reckless?" His words sounded like reproach, but his tone was full of worry. Olivia explained that she felt uncomfortable in her stomach, it hurt from being empty, so she wanted to come downstairs to get something to eat. Ethan had no choice but to resignedly go and find the first aid kit. He knelt halfway on the ground and carefully applied medicine to Olivia's wound. When Olivia cried out in pain, he scolded her for deserving it while his movements became much lighter, and he even blew gently on her wound. "Brother Ethan, you're so fierce," just like before, Olivia lowered her head and said in a soft voice. "When I got hurt before, you also scolded me while gently applying medicine to me." Ethan's hands suddenly froze. Suddenly, I remembered the last time I fell. Ethan was also very worried, but when applying medicine, his movements were rough. I was in so much pain that big tears rolled down my cheeks, but he said that it would teach me a lesson. At that time, I thought he loved me, and a hint of sweetness welled up in my heart. Now, I realized that I was just being sentimental. Ah! Suddenly, Olivia cried out, interrupting my thoughts. "Brother Ethan, be gentler." But Ethan said in a deep voice, "Bear with it." After dealing with Olivia's wound, Ethan and I went back to our room. We slept back to back, and I suffered from insomnia again. The next day when I got home from work, Ethan was busy in the kitchen. And Olivia was sitting on the sofa watching TV while holding snacks. The way they got along was just like a newly married couple. At this time, Ethan admonished, "Olivia, eat less snacks. You'll feel uncomfortable in your stomach later." "I'm dying soon. I won't be able to eat these things anymore," Olivia said. As soon as she finished speaking, Ethan snapped, "Nonsense." I saw Olivia stick out her tongue. Then she turned around, saw me, and smiled, "Sister, you're back." I nodded at her. For dinner, Ethan cooked all light dishes, all of which were the kinds of dishes that Olivia liked. But when I smelled the food, I couldn't help running to the bathroom and vomiting violently. Ethan followed me with a nervous look on his face. "What's wrong with sister?" After I finished vomiting, Olivia looked at me suspiciously. Before Ethan could say anything, I said, "Morning sickness." The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. Olivia's eyes became a bit red, and she bit her lip and forced a smile, saying, "Is that so? Then congratulations, sister." The hatred in her eyes was obvious. I vomited rather severely and didn't feel well in my body either. Ethan asked me, "What would you like to eat?" "I'll cook something again." "It's too much trouble," I shook my head. "Let's just eat like this." I picked up my chopsticks, but still couldn't help feeling nauseous. Seeing this, Ethan pulled me aside and let Olivia eat by herself. Olivia's eyes were misty. She lowered her head and picked at her food, and her tears fell into the bowl. I didn't look at her anymore but said, "I want something spicy." "Eat some bread to fill your stomach first." "I'll cook something spicy for you." Ethan rubbed my hair, let out a sigh of relief, and went into the kitchen. Before long, he cooked several spicy dishes. "Is it delicious?" Ethan asked me. I nodded and said, "Yes, it's delicious. I'll have a taste too." As if seeing that I was enjoying the food, Ethan took 2 bites himself. He didn't usually eat spicy food, and after just 2 bites, he was so hot that he kept drinking water. Ethan laughed at me. Your taste has changed since you got pregnant. Usually, I don't see that you like spicy food. I was slightly stunned. But I had always liked spicy food. It was him who didn't like it. It smells so good. I want to have a taste too. Olivia suddenly came over. She sniffed and said playfully, "You can't eat spicy food." Ethan shook his head. But Olivia didn't listen to him. Instead, she picked up a piece with her chopsticks and put it in her mouth. I've never tasted the spicy dishes made by Brother Ethan before. They're really delicious. It's just a pity that I won't be able to eat them anymore. She was crying from the spiciness, but still kept putting the food into her mouth. The atmosphere didn't get better until Ethan pulled her away with an ugly look on his face. I took a couple of bites of rice, but my appetite was already gone. I put down my chopsticks and went upstairs. Unfortunately, I happened to see Olivia grabbing Ethan's hand and crying pitifully. "Brother Ethan, you're so heartless. You even have a child with her." Olivia choked with sobs several times while crying. Was I the only one who cared about that relationship? You clearly have feelings for me in your heart. Why are you treating me like this? Ethan frowned tightly. Just as he was about to speak, he looked up and saw me. He suddenly panicked and quickly shook off Olivia's hand and took a step back, saying, "It's all in the past. My current girlfriend is Sophia." After saying that, he walked towards me, took me by the hand, and led me back to the room. In the middle of the night, Ethan's cell phone kept ringing. It was Olivia calling. When he didn't answer, Olivia sent a WeChat message. She said that she had a severe stomachache and wanted him to accompany her. He tossed and turned several times. When he sat up and was about to leave, I said in a low voice, "Ethan, I'm in pain." "Where does it hurt?" He turned on the light and asked me. "My head hurts." "I'll go get some medicine," he said and was about to leave, but I grabbed his hand. "Just rub it for me. I can't take medicine casually since I'm pregnant." "Okay," Ethan replied and then massaged my head. His strength was a bit too strong. But I didn't remind him. Olivia had been living here for half a month. However, her illness didn't get worse. On the contrary, she was in better spirits. These days, Ethan was on a business trip. I didn't want to get entangled with her either, so I went to a colleague's party. It was almost 12 o'clock when the party ended. Just as I was about to take a taxi home, I saw Olivia coming out of a bar. Her little face was flushed from drinking. The woman beside her asked her, "Aren't you afraid that Ethan will see you and find out the truth when you go back like this?" "Don't worry. He's on a business trip." Olivia raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Sister has been holding back for half a month. I'm almost suffocating." As she said that, when she looked up, she happened to meet my eyes. When I got home, I told her to pack her things and move out immediately. "Why?" Olivia no longer looked as innocent as before. "You're not sick, right?" I said. "Right." Olivia didn't pretend anymore. She smiled and said, "I was just faking it." Slap. I was so angry that I was shaking all over. I gathered all my strength and slapped her hard, saying, "Olivia, don't you have any shame?" She touched her face and looked at me sarcastically. "My dear sister, you should ask yourself this question. You've taken my place. Brother Ethan has feelings for me in his heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed to take care of me as soon as he heard that I was sick. Sophia, he doesn't love you. Can't you feel it? Have you been to the locked room on the first floor?" Olivia smiled and said, "All my things are stored there. I went to see it last time. It was clean and tidy. Brother Ethan should go there often." I was stunned. I knew that Ethan often went there. Once I was curious and wanted to take a look. He said very seriously, "Sophia, even if we get married in the future, we still need to leave each other some space." Without giving me time to react, Olivia continued, "Sister, let me show you something." She took out her phone and flipped to a photo for me. It was a design drawing of a house. It was exactly the same as the home we were living in. This is the house that brother Ethan and I drew together for our future home when we were in college. Sister, do you still remember your wedding dress? That was also designed by brother Ethan himself for me. Do you want to see the original drawing? Here, look. There's even the time on it. My ears were ringing. I looked at Olivia's smug face, feeling so sad that I couldn't even shed a tear. It turned out that I had always been living in the shadow of Ethan's love for Olivia. We already have a child and we're getting married, I said belatedly. Hearing this, a hint of hatred flashed in Olivia's eyes, and then she said contemptuously, Sister, brother Ethan doesn't love you. Do you want your child to live in a world without love just like you? How pitiful that would be. Yes, how pitiful. In the middle of the night, I called Ethan. I asked him, do you love me? Yes, he replied without even a pause. I hung up the phone. And then burst into tears. How could he say that word so easily? I went back to the countryside to see my grandma. Dear granddaughter, why didn't Ethan come back with you? Grandma asked me as she held my hand. He's on a business trip, I said with a smile and asked her to sit down. Why have you lost weight? You don't look well. Did Ethan bully you? No. Maybe it's because of the high work pressure recently. It's good for young people to have pressure. But if Ethan really bullies you, tell Grandma. Grandma will beat him up even with a stick. As she said that, the old lady waved the stick a few times. I was amused by her. But my eyes couldn't help getting sour. Grandma, if I don't get married and stay with you all the time, is that okay? I leaned against her arms and asked her softly. She was silent for 2 seconds before saying, Sophia, Grandma is old and won't be able to accompany you for long. I just hope that before I leave, I can see someone who loves you. Otherwise, I won't be at ease when I go. After hearing that, I hugged her tightly, gritted my teeth hard, and didn't dare to cry out. I had only stayed for one night when Ethan came to find me. Ethan, I only have this one granddaughter. Since you're going to marry her, you must treat her well. Grandma instructed. Don't worry, Grandma. Sophia is my sweetheart, he said as he hugged me, sounding rather mushy. Grandma laughed heartily when she heard that. But I couldn't laugh. Did you quarrel with Olivia? Ethan asked me in the car. I took out Olivia's medical records that I had asked a friend to check and handed them to Ethan. After looking at them, he said with an unhappy expression, Sophia, even if you don't like her, you shouldn't frame her. What Olivia said was right after all, he muttered. I looked at Ethan. I had thought about his reaction after knowing the truth. But the way he unconditionally trusted Olivia still made my heart ache. I was silent for a long time before saying, Ethan, let's break up. The car suddenly stopped. Even though I was wearing a seatbelt, I still lurched forward violently. Suddenly, I felt a twinge in my stomach. I was so frightened that my face turned pale, but the pain disappeared in just 2 seconds. Before I could breathe a sigh of relief, Ethan suddenly pinched my chin. What did you say? There was anger in his eyes. You can't let go of Olivia in your heart. Staying with me is also a torture for you. I've said that the person I love is you. Really? I asked with tears in my eyes. Ethan, do you really love me? Do you really think that just by telling yourself over and over again that the person you love is me, you really love me? While numbing yourself, do you know that you've hurt me? Ethan, I'm really in pain and so uncomfortable. After saying that, I couldn't help trembling, and tears kept falling like a broken string, quickly wetting his hand. Ethan let go of my chin. He lit a cigarette, then seemed to remember something and stubbed it out. Sophia, I don't know why you think like this, but I don't want to break up with you. He said in a deep voice, I've heard that pregnancy can make pregnant women overthink. I guess that's what happened to you. Well, I'll just take it as you venting your emotions this time. Don't say such things again next time. You know I'm serious, I shook my head. A hint of gloom appeared in Ethan's eyes. What about the child? Let's abort it. Can you bear to do that? Ethan said angrily, this is our child. You can't abort it. You can't be so selfish and cruel. Give me some time. I'll deal with Olivia. I touched my stomach, thinking about the little life inside, and finally nodded. I couldn't bring myself to be so heartless. Olivia moved out overnight. When she left, her eyes were red from crying. I'm sorry, sister. I got in the way. Maybe I really shouldn't be alive in this world. Maybe that's why cancer came to punish me. I saw a hint of heartache flash in Ethan's eyes. But he still didn't say anything. After Olivia moved out, Ethan and I spent 2 uneventful weeks. Although everything seemed normal, I felt more and more uneasy in my heart. The next day at work, I suddenly received a message from Olivia. She sent me an invitation asking me to attend her wedding. On the invitation were printed the photos of her and Ethan and their names. I almost fell to the ground. Teacher Sophia, are you okay? A colleague quickly supported me. I shook my head. Teacher Zhang, could you please help me ask the director for a leave? After saying that, I turned around and walked out. I took a taxi to the wedding venue. When I arrived, there were guests everywhere. While Olivia and Ethan were saying "I do" to each other under the guidance of the host, I walked over in a daze. When Ethan saw me, he was so surprised that he froze on the spot. It was his friends who reacted first and stopped me. Sister-in-law, this is an unavoidable misunderstanding. Ethan will explain it to you when he gets back. Yes, sister-in-law, let's go. I couldn't struggle free from them, but I didn't want to leave. I stomped hard on the person beside me. After getting an opening, I overturned the nearest dining table. The wine glasses fell to the ground and people screamed. I made a big scene. I was dragged away by Ethan with a dark face. How did you get here? He asked me angrily. Suddenly, I felt it was ridiculous. Is this the venue problem you mentioned? Ethan, are you going to hold 2 weddings in the same place? Who are you disgusting? Olivia only has 1 week left. I just want to fulfill her wish. It's not as dirty as you think, Ethan frowned. So it was me who was dirty. I've told you that Olivia isn't sick and she won't die. Enough. He looked at me coldly and reproached, Sophia, she's your sister. And she's dying. Is your heart black? Stop making unreasonable troubles. After saying that, he pushed me. As he turned to leave, unexpectedly, I lost my balance and fell backward. I fell to the ground and suddenly there was a sharp pain in my lower abdomen. The wetness under me was obvious. I looked at the blood on the ground and tears flowed down helplessly. I had a miscarriage. When I woke up, Ethan was kneeling in front of my bed. Sophia, I'm wrong. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have pushed you. You can hit me or scold me, okay? As long as you can calm down. But I didn't even have the energy to look at him. It was the doctor who couldn't bear it anymore and asked him to stop disturbing my rest, and then he left the ward. In the evening, suddenly, I heard the family members of the patient in the next bed pointing at me. It's her. TSK. She was a mistress and made a scene at someone else's wedding. She deserved to have a miscarriage. It's a good thing that the child of a mistress is gone. I was attacked by rumors and everyone spat on me. I looked at them blankly and finally took out my phone. I don't know who uploaded the video of today's wedding on Douyin with the topic of mistress. Everyone was furious. The mistress must die. It's so disgusting. I not only want to scold the mistress but also those who don't scold the mistress. I heard that her child is gone? What a relief. The netizens this time are no good. Why haven't they dug out the real identity of the mistress yet? +1. Soon my information was dug out. The director also called me. She said that some parents recognized me and united with other parents to boycott me and I was fired. Just in an instant, I lost everything. Suddenly, I received a WeChat message from Ethan. Sophia, don't clarify. Olivia can't bear others scolding her. Looking at the WeChat message, a sense of despair welled up in me. Stop making noise. This is a hospital. Please keep quiet. A nurse came in. She scolded them, and the others finally stopped. She said softly to me, Sister, don't pay attention to them. They don't know the truth at all. I believe you're definitely not that kind of person. This was the only kindness I felt. I felt like crying, but my eyes were so sore that it hurt. Thank you. On the second day of hospitalization, I suddenly received a call from my neighbor. Sophia, your grandma is hospitalized. Come quickly. I was so frightened that I panicked and rushed to the hospital immediately. When I arrived, Grandma was in the emergency room. Ava, what happened to Grandma? Alas, it's all because of that video of yours. Your grandma is old, but she's not an old-fashioned person and can use the internet too, Ava said. After seeing it, she begged me to help her make a video to clarify for you. Unexpectedly, those people were so unreasonable and scolded the old lady. They even called to insult her. How could she bear these? She had a cerebral infarction because of being so angry. How could this happen? I stepped back in disbelief and finally slumped to the ground. I waited in the hospital for a long time. In the middle of the night, the light in the operating room finally went out, but the doctor said to me, "Please accept my condolences." I walked tremblingly to Grandma's side, tremblingly lifted the white cloth on her body with my hands. She closed her eyes and lay quietly on the bed. I called her, I kept calling her, but she would never respond to me and would never wake up again. She couldn't move. And she wouldn't call me dear granddaughter anymore. I didn't have Grandma anymore. My only relative was killed by me. I lay on her body and burst into loud sobs. I'm sorry, Grandma. It's all my fault. Grandma, how I wish it was me who died. After the funeral, I didn't have time to continue to be sad. I wanted those who killed Grandma to pay the price they deserved. I endured the pain and sorted out the timeline of when Ethan and I were together and when they broke up. I posted it online, but very few people watched it. Even some people who watched it didn't believe me and just thought that I was trying to whitewash myself. The mistress still has the nerve to claim innocence. Report. With the help of those so-called just netizens, my video was taken down and my account was blocked. Just when I was in a hurry, a big blogger contacted me. She said that she believed that I wasn't a mistress and was willing to help me. After thinking about it, I decided to accept her interview. Before the video was released on Dafa Video, I had watched the original footage and only let her post it after confirming there was no problem. But I didn't expect that she had cheated me. Miss Sophia, do you know that those who destroy other people's relationships will get their comeuppance? Yes, I do. You knew he had a partner but still got involved with him, right? Yes. How disgusting. Go to hell. Is there anyone who wants to punish her with me? It's really like being cut on the butt with a small knife, an eye-opener. Completely shameless. Netizens cursed at me one after another, and she gained a lot of followers. I angrily went to find her, but she was having a live stream and asked someone to pour a bucket of paint on me. I was like a monkey being played by others for people to amuse themselves and abuse. In the live stream room, everyone praised her for doing a good deed. If Ethan hadn't rushed over, I wondered if I would have died there. Sophia. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Ethan's eyes were red and he tremblingly wiped my face. But the more he wiped, the dirtier it seemed. I pushed his hand away and quietly walked into the bathroom. I washed for a long time and scrubbed countless times, but the stench left on my body was still so strong. I wanted to cry but couldn't. Finally, Ethan burst through the door and rushed in. He carefully carried me to the bed as if I were a precious treasure. He knelt on the ground and repented, Sophia, don't be like this. I'm scared. I know I'm wrong. I shouldn't have believed Olivia. Will you forgive me? I'll find a way to solve the online issues. Just give me some time. I glanced at him indifferently and didn't say a word. The next day, Ethan finally left. I made an appointment to meet with a lawyer. But as soon as I sat down, a woman rushed out and slapped me hard. Stinking mistress. Shameless bitch, what are you meeting my husband for? She tightly protected the lawyer behind her. The man was a bit angry. She's my client. Don't be so reckless. What do you mean your client? I think you're her client. Everyone, come and see. This habitual mistress is trying to seduce my husband, and my husband is even defending her. How miserable my life is. Whoa. The woman was crying and making a scene. The lawyer looked at me and said, sorry, I won't take this case. After saying that, he pulled the woman away with an ugly look on his face. And I was left with the label of a mistress. Everyone pointed at me and even spat on me. I walked on the road in a daze. Except for Grandma, I hadn't done anything wrong to anyone. But why did everyone treat me like this? Why did everyone want to hurt me? I squatted on the ground and finally couldn't help bursting into tears. While crying, I fainted. I woke up in the hospital. The window was closed, and I felt a bit stuffy, so I walked out barefoot. Just as I got to the front desk, a man suddenly ran towards a nurse with a knife in his hand. I remembered that nurse. She was the only one who had been kind to me. At that moment, I didn't have time to think about anything and blocked the knife with my body. Sophia. At that instant, I heard Ethan's panicked voice. But the man was still stabbing me crazily. It's you doctors and nurses who killed my mother. I'll kill you all. It hurt so much. But I used all my strength to raise my face and smiled at that nurse. I was finally free. I died. My soul floated in midair, watching Ethan kneeling beside my body and crying bitterly. I just felt it was so unlucky. Just as I was about to float away, my soul suddenly felt a sharp pain. Hiss. I turned around in pain. I saw the familiar old lady hitting me with a stick. You silly girl. Who asked you to block the knife? Grandma. I burst into tears and hugged her. Grandma, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I missed you so much. Whoa. I missed you so much. All right, dear granddaughter. Grandma gently patted my back. Don't cry. Does it still hurt? Yes. I choked with sobs. It hurts so much, Grandma, blow on it for me. Grandma gave me a hard slap on the head. You knew it hurt but still blocked it. You silly girl. She scolded me but still blew gently on me. I couldn't help it and hugged her tightly again. Ava helped with my funeral. The little nurse felt so guilty that she knelt in front of my spirit tablet and kept crying. I floated over and let the wind touch her head for me. Little nurse, I did it voluntarily. It's me who should thank you. Her body froze slightly. Perhaps she heard the message conveyed by the wind. On the other side, Ethan knelt on the ground and kowtowed, but Ava wouldn't let him in. You're a jinx, you killed the grandmother and granddaughter. If I let you in, they won't be at peace even in death. I gave Ava a thumbs up. Thanks to you, Ava, Grandma said. I nodded and sincerely thanked her. Yes, thank you, Ava. After the funeral, Ethan kept staying in front of my tombstone. Every day after getting drunk, he would chatter to me about the past beside my ear. He thought he was being affectionate, but he just annoyed Grandma and me. A few days later, Olivia finally found him. Brother Ethan, sister has passed away. The most important thing now is the people who are still alive. Ethan looked at Olivia coldly. His eyes were like a venomous snake's, and when he looked at Olivia, it was as if he was looking at an enemy. He said, "Why don't you just go and die?" Olivia was stunned. Unexpectedly, Ethan suddenly got up and slapped her hard. Why did you lie to me? Why did you lie to me when you weren't sick? You killed my child, killed Grandma, and killed Sophia. Go to hell. Just go to hell. Olivia had never seen Ethan like this before. She was so frightened that she said, I didn't mean to kill her. You were the one who uploaded the video. Ethan said, and you used my WeChat to send messages to Sophia. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so desperate. She wouldn't have been spat on by everyone until her death. Olivia, you're so vicious, so disgusting. I'll make you suffer twice as much as all the pain you inflicted on Sophia. Grandma and I were floating beside them. I listened to those familiar words. It turned out that one day, the malicious words that had been used on me would also be used on Olivia. Finally, Ethan left my tombstone. But Grandma and I were still floating beside him. I saw that he clarified the rumors about me and exposed his past with Olivia. Netizens turned against them and cursed them as a scumbag and a slut. The stock of Ethan's company dropped sharply. His business partners canceled their contracts one after another, and the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Olivia and my parents were so cursed that they didn't dare to go out. Those so-called just netizens wouldn't let anyone off, whether they were good or bad. They were spat on. Someone poured red paint on them. Insulting words like slut and beast were written at their doorsteps. Even someone sent them scary gifts to frighten them. For several months in a row, Olivia's family didn't dare to go out. With the continuous heat, the video of me blocking the knife to save others was also reposted. I'm so sad. Sister did nothing wrong. She lost her child, Grandma was killed because of this. She was cyberbullied every day. But she still had a kind heart towards the world. When an avalanche happens, no snowflake is innocent. All of you are murderers. If no one stands up for justice, then I will. +1. Those who had cyberbullied me before apologized one after another, but it was useless. They experienced what I had gone through. I'm sorry. I really know I'm wrong. All the mistakes were made by me. Please stop harassing my family. Ha! When you harassed Grandma before, did you ever think about how innocent she was? Ethan sued many people. Some netizens went to prison while others were acquitted. However, even if they were acquitted, they still couldn't escape the sanctions of netizens. Some of them became depressed, some dropped out of school, and some resigned, and the lawyer I had made an appointment with before was also affected to some extent. This woman is so disgusting. Her husband looks like that. I wouldn't want him even if he was given to me for free. It's all this woman's fault that sister suffered. Let's avenge sister. The lawyer lost his job. His wife was also too scared to go out. Under the constant harassment of netizens, he divorced his wife and moved to another place overnight. I didn't originally want to hurt others, but the development of everything was out of my control. The big blogger was completely ruined. The original footage of the interview was released by her staff. People were extremely angry after learning the truth and cursed under her account one after another. The big blogger couldn't bear the cyberbullying. She knelt on the ground during the live stream and apologized to me. She said that she was blinded by greed at that time and wanted to ride the wave of popularity to become famous again. She didn't mean to make me die. What's the use of an apology? If it weren't for your deliberate editing, sister might not have been so desperate. You really deserve to die. You're a cancer of society. You deserve to be cyberbullied. You don't deserve to live. Just go to die. The big blogger already had anti-fans, and with this incident, she was severely cyberbullied. Some netizens even went to her home to harass her. In less than half a month, the big blogger suffered from severe depression. She posted the medical report online. But no one believed her. Go to die if you have the guts. Don't try to win sympathy. She started a live stream to prove her mental state and begged netizens to let her go, but netizens all told her to die. So she swallowed sleeping pills in front of the live stream. Ironically, no one called the police. Everyone thought she was just putting on a show. By the time some netizens realized what was going on, it was too late to save her. She died. In a blink of an eye, Grandma and I had been floating in the air for half a year. After dealing with the netizens, Ethan focused on dealing with Olivia. Under all kinds of pressures, she got depression. When she went to the hospital for a physical examination, she found out that she also had stomach cancer. Real stomach cancer. And it was already in the terminal stage. How painful stomach cancer is. She began to have stomach aches and lost her appetite. In less than a month, she couldn't eat anything and could only stay in the hospital to survive on intravenous drips. Dad. Mom. I'm in so much pain. Whoa. I saw my mother frowning and crying. What should we do? It's all karma. My father said angrily, who asked her to kill her own sister. How dare you say that? Didn't you tacitly approve of it too? What nonsense are you talking about? When did I let her do this? Ha, don't pretend to be a good person now. When Sophia was born, you lost your job and didn't want her because you thought she had a bad fate. Otherwise, the two sisters wouldn't have ended up like this. Oh, so the reason why I was abandoned was so simple. Grandma shook her head. Don't look anymore. This family is so heartless. But I still didn't leave. 3 months later, Olivia starved to death because she couldn't eat. And my parents divorced immediately at the moment of her death. The day after Olivia died, Ethan jumped off the building. When he jumped, there wasn't even time to set up an air cushion, and his whole body was smashed to pieces. How disgusting. Sophia. Suddenly, I heard that voice that I hated. Grandma quickly pulled me. Let's go. Our time is up. Hurry up and reincarnate. Don't let the mad dog catch up. Okay. I held Grandma's hand and jumped into the fog together. In the next life, I still want to be with Grandma. If possible, I want to be her grandma and spoil her with all my life. Just like she did to me. Extra story, Ethan, Sophia was a person with a rather calm temperament. If she hadn't followed me quietly for a long time, I wouldn't have known that she liked me. After being with her, I actually lived quite comfortably. However, this kind of comfort made me unable to experience the passion in a relationship. So when Olivia reappeared and when she showed that she needed me so much, I started to waver and wanted to add some excitement to my life. I enjoyed Olivia's admiration while being reluctant to give up Sophia's plain and comfortable life. I'm such a scumbag. Before I died, I suddenly remembered that Sophia always asked me if I loved her. Every time I answered, yes. But did I really love her? I knew that I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so painful after losing her. It's just that I realized it too late. Now I think that maybe Sophia wouldn't want to hear me say that I loved her. If she heard it, I'm afraid she would just think that I was insulting her. I closed my eyes, imitated her by spreading my arms, and jumped down. I killed the child of Sophia and me. I killed Grandma. And I also killed Sophia. I came to atone for my sins. But I know that I can't atone for all my sins.